Hello and welcome to your real estate market update. I am doing a mid-year review today. We will start high level with the three things that are reshaping the real estate market. Two, we'll talk about where the housing market is expected to go in the next 6 months. And then we'll finish up with a look at what's going on locally in the real estate market or what's happened in the first 6 months, particularly in Raleigh and Durham in the triangle here. I'm going to share my screen and we will get right into it. So first things first, three forces that are reshaping today's real estate market. One, recent inventory growth. What does this mean? Well, if you're a seller, it means you have more competition. If you're here in the triangle, in certain parts of the triangle, you're going to have more competition from new construction than from other resale homes. If you're a buyer in the market today, it means there's more options available for you, and you might have some leverage with regard to negotiation. Two, shifting prices. We'll look at seller expectations and what the reality is. And finally, the other thing that is impacting the real estate market today is longer days on market. So because of the rising interest rates, we have less buyers in the market today. Homes are taking a little bit longer to sell. So we're seeing a trend across the country and then also here in the triangle. So starting with rising inventory, we've talked about this before. We went into the pandemic, rates went down, inventory really got cleared out, and we've been building back up ever since. We still aren't to pre-pandemic levels, which when you think about it, 2017, 2018, 2019 were the last normal years in real estate before we got into the pandemic. And we are rebuilding back to that and getting back to a normal and balanced market, which is great news, and it's healthy. It's good for buyers. It balances things out. So it's good to see that happening. 80% of sellers think they are going to get their asking price or more. So this is with regard to seller expectations and the reality of the marketplace. So this was a survey that was done by realtor.com. So 80% thought I'll get my asking price or I'm going to get more than my asking price. The reality is over the last several years, we've seen homes selling for less than list price, and that trend continues to increase. What we see here in the triangle is more price reductions and then more sellers coming off their list price in order to make a deal, which you'll see when we get into the historical data for the triangle locally. Homes are taking longer to sell, 52 days. We're getting back towards where we were pre-pandemic levels. And where is that being driven from? Well, when you look across the country in May, days on market was about 52 days on average, but you can see the Sun Belt states are starting to see the days on market really creep up. Florida, 75 days, Texas, 55, Arizona, 60 days. And then when you look at the northern states, those are seeing a little bit quicker turn, 37, 36 days, 38 days on market. The state of North Carolina is at 51 days. When we drill down to the local level, you'll see we're actually doing a little bit better than we are nationally, and then we are doing a little bit better than the state as well. So those are three things reshaping the real estate market today: inventory growth, shifting prices, and then longer days on market. So if you're a buyer or seller, you're thinking about the real estate market, you're thinking about selling, you're thinking about buying, those are three things to be aware of and take into consideration, especially for sellers, being strategic on your price point. If you're a buyer, knowing all the options that are available to you. And so now we'll shift into what's coming for the second half of the year. And this is from chief economist at Compass. He says 4 years of post-pandemic inventory recovery appears to have plateaued. So while I just mentioned we had 4 years of inventory growth, we're starting to see inventory gains lose momentum. So active listing count year over year, this shows the trend is heading down. So what does this mean? This means some sellers are just staying put and they're not selling and maybe waiting until things improve. So that's some of it. Maybe they're waiting for rates to come down and the market to get a little bit better. Although it is hard to time the market, it's kind of like trying to time the stock market. But this is the trend that we're seeing on a national level. Experts are still projecting that home prices are going to improve, and we will look at how that looks in the triangle here as well. But for 2026, on average, expecting about a 2% increase in home prices. Mortgage rates are expected to remain relatively stable. And where are we at today? We are at 6.68 according to Mortgage Daily News. So right around the mid sixes or so is where they're expected to stay for the rest of the year. And, one of the things that's going to impact mortgage prices or mortgage rates is falling oil prices. And so you can see the trend of what has happened over the course of the year since oil prices went up, mortgage rates went up, and kind of what's happened since they've bounced down and then back up again. What's happened? I'm sorry, the green line is mortgage rates, but you can see what's happened with mortgage rates as oil prices have bounced around here. The trend is typically, oil prices are going to influence mortgage rates. So the trend is that as they come down, mortgage rates will come down. And I think, what is the oil price today? I did actually look this up. So we are seeing oil prices increase today. So that might be why, we saw a little bump in the mortgage rates. Looking at home sales, they are expected to be modestly better in the second half of the year. So we've had a decent start to the year. I think a lot of experts projected 2026 to really be the breakout year. And now I think we'll end up the year with a slight increase compared to last year. So we've seen that trend the last couple of years. I think the National Association of Realtors had the most aggressive sales forecast, and they've since backed off on that. So they are expected to be modestly better in the second half of the year, but overall for the year, probably going to just see a slight increase from 2025 into 2026. The good news is, while there are less buyers in the market today, because of higher interest rates, the good news is more buyers are saying yes, and that's great news for the rest of 2026. So these are pending home sales. The blue line is 2026, and you can see how that compares to 2024 and 2025. So that's your overall high-level overview of the triangle. What's going on here locally? And I'm going to look at a snapshot of what happened for the first 6 months of the year in Raleigh. What happened? How does it compare to what happened in Durham? If you're looking for information that's specific to your neighborhood, your city, feel free to reach out to me. But when we look at year to date, and this is Raleigh, and all this data comes from the Triangle MLS, year to date, new listings are up about almost 2%. Our closed sales are up 1.4%. So we've seen some steady growth here in Raleigh. Our median sales price is down about 2.2%, $455 to $445. But our overall average sales price is up about 1% when compared to last year. And you can see in June, it was up almost 3% compared to last year. And then this is key. So I mentioned, perception of sellers of the pricing versus reality. And this is key. So this shows percent of original list price received and percent of final list price received. So you can see sellers are not getting 100% or more. If you're getting 100%, you're getting your list price. If you're getting 101%, 102%, you're getting over your list price. So this is saying that, hey, sellers are coming off their list price in order to make a deal. So this year, this shows, like, if you originally went on the market at 600,000, but you reduced to 575, this compares the list price to that 600,000. And then this would compare to 575. So on average, sellers are coming off their list price almost 2% off their final list price in order to make a deal. And that's here in Raleigh. Days on market, we talked about that a little bit. On average, 35 days on the market before a home goes under contract. In the Raleigh area. What's happened in Durham? So we'll shift over to Durham. A little bit different picture here. New listings are up a lot more, 12.4%. Some of this could be because there's a lot of new construction going on in Durham. There's more buildable land, things like that. So that could be contributing to some of this larger increase. Closed sales up much higher, 17.2%. Median sales price is down, so 425 to 410, off about 3.5%, and the average sales price flat versus last year. But look at what happened to the average sales price in the month of June, up 6.6%, which is pretty amazing. We're seeing the same trend that we saw in Raleigh with regard to sellers coming off their last list price, almost about 2%, and coming off their original list price a little bit more. Same trend that we saw in Raleigh, 31 days on the market before a home goes under contract, from the time it comes on the market till it goes under contract. And one of the things that's going to change here, which is kind of exciting, is it used to be way back when you could put a home on the market as coming soon, and those days on the market would not count against you. And then it changed to coming soon. The days will count against you now. So if you're coming soon for 5 days, you would show 5 days on the market, whereas before you'd show 0. Well, they've changed it as of July 14th. Coming soon, you will no longer accumulate days on market. but you can only be coming soon for 2 weeks before it shifts to active. So that's a big change in our area, which will have an impact, I think, on days on market. You'll start to see more agents do coming soon because it doesn't impact the listing negatively. That is your real estate market update mid-year review. If you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out. If you're looking for more information like this, check out my YouTube channel, Welcome to Raleigh. There's more information like this. There's community tours, city tours. There's a lot of great information. It's a great resource. I look forward to talking to you again soon, and I hope you have a great day.